are listening to Good to Great Life Coaching Podcast with Jill Farron. And this is where we take your real life struggles and issues and we create results with tools you will use forever. And here we go. This is from Good to Great Life Coaching Podcast with Jill Farron. And today's topic, I wanted to talk about the emotions behind the weight. But listen, it's not just about the weight. It could be over drinking, it's for sure it's overeating, over drinking, smoking, whatever your distraction is, whatever it is you do mindlessly, that's what I'm talking about. It's when you feel at peace. It's when you do this and you don't realize how much you're doing it, or even the thought that's coming down from your brain that you're experiencing before you do the thing. But this is what I want to talk about, because it doesn't matter what it is. It could be any of those things. And it doesn't even matter how much weight it is. If that's your thing, you want to lose weight and there's emotions sitting behind there that we're not looking at or we're fearful to kind of look at. This is where this is what I kind of want to unpack here, because all of the time there are emotions behind there and there's a distraction happening so that you can feel comfortable, so that you can not have to address some of the triggers or some of the even trauma or some of the feelings that we really don't like to feel. And that's what we're avoiding. But I want to challenge us. I want to ask you to look at that and what thoughts we do think before we do overdrink, have an extra drink, or before we, eat that extra piece of cake or whatever that is, or whether we scroll for 2 hours. What is that thought that we're thinking? That's what I want to talk about. The issue at hand may seem so simple, really. Like you just want to lose weight for your son's wedding or your junior high school reunion. I just had one, by the way, which was so fun. But I want to address that what is sitting behind the door that you don't really want to open, those emotions, those ones, that is the driver behind the extra weight. And like I said, if it's not the weight we're talking about for you, if it's the smoking or the drinking or the scrolling or the porn, whatever it is that you're overdoing, this is the whole concept. So hang in here if it's not weight. This is what it is. It's the distractions that are coming to you so that you don't have to feel what you feel. And this will give you, that peaceful feeling that is, and the satisfaction that you're craving, that you want. And Brooke Castillo, and I bring her up a fair amount because she's had some really good concepts herself. And one of the things she talks about is she calls those distractions that I mentioned called buffering. And that's exactly what it is, buffering. So I want to talk about our belief systems for a minute, okay? So our belief systems play a major role in what we think about ourselves. And how we think about ourselves is really probably a pattern that started when we were really young. And just knowing that, we can start understanding why we are buffering or why we are being distracted into doing those things. And it could have started out very easily when you were younger, as you finish every single thing on your plate before you get up from this table. And it was just something that was taught, or a reward. Anytime you were upset or you were disappointed and your parent gave you food as your reward, this would become your comfort. And this is where it starts. And this is where it could start. But I mean, when it comes to over drinking, there's another story for it. We just have to find out what that is. There are so many weight loss fixes and books and practices and all the things, but let's get familiar about what's behind it, because to be honest with you, there's the Mediterranean diet and the paleo diet and the pescatarian diet and anything. They all work and they're all fine depending on what your beliefs are. But there's a reason why we put on this weight in the first place. And I really want to get to the bottom of it. I want to go into how to start feeling and processing emotions so that we can make different choices and not go to food or overeating to fix that feeling that we don't want to feel. When I have clients talk about the weight and they want to come to me for weight loss, a lot of the time I will say, well, let's talk about the emotions and let's talk about why this is happening. And a lot of the time people will say, I was no different, by the way. A lot of people will say, no, I just want you to tell me what to eat. I just want a plan and I'll do it. I'm just going to do it. And, if I say to them, have you struggled with this before? Have you tried to lose weight before? Yeah, but I've gained it back again. I want to reset, a redo. But the thing is that when we come with just the plan, I could give somebody just a plan. I could just say, here, do this. We're not addressing it deep down so the weight won't stay off. Well, we want to address it where the issue lies, right? We want to change that pattern so that you don't see yourself as somebody that is an alcoholic or that overdrinks or that is overweight all the time. When we think of ourselves, we usually label ourselves. I am overweight. Well, wait a minute. Let's not label yourself as overweight. Let's label yourself as somebody who's health conscious because you've made a decision and now you're changing it. Changes the perspective, doesn't it, a little bit? I think the other thing too that I want to address is that I want you to start noticing what thought you think before you do that thing, before you have that extra drink, before you eat whatever you're going to eat. Are you hungry? This is the thing I want you to ask yourself. What is going on in your brain? What is your thought? You will have to really be an observer of your brain to figure out what that is. What am I thinking? Because if you're saying to yourself, I'm starving, I really need to eat something, that's a different story. But if you open the fridge and stare at it, probably isn't hunger you're looking for. It's probably to get out of a feeling of boredom or anger or frustration or sadness or heartbreak. And you know that is your reward. But I'm kind of getting deep here, right? Because you might not be aware of that. But when you open that fridge door, ask yourself, am I hungry? What is the thought I'm having? What I'm looking for is for you to identify what is the feeling you have. Okay, remember in one of the episodes, I probably brought you through the mindset pathway, which is, again, from Brooke Castillo. I've learned that the circumstance will send you a thought in your brain, and that thought in your brain will give you a feeling. That feeling is a vibration in your body. So it could be a feeling of anxiousness. It could be a tightness in your chest, a heaviness in your heart. It could be a lot of different feelings you have, which will lead to an emotion. I'm frustrated. I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm excited. All of those emotions will drive your actions. What are those actions that are being driven by those emotions? And what thought are you thinking to give you that feeling that causes that emotion? Because those actions you take are your results right there in a handbasket. And when you get those results, you either love them or you hate them. And if you hate them, we've got to figure out what thought you're thinking to give you that feeling. Because remember, that feeling will cause an emotion, and that emotion will drive your actions. And those actions give you your results. Do you like your results? No. And if you don't, what is the thought you're thinking? What is that? I'm heartbroken. I'm sad. Then what we want to do is process that. We want to feel those emotions you don't want to feel. Because if I ask you what are your top emotions that you love feeling, I guarantee that the top two, you're not, if it's weight that is your problem, the top two emotions you love feeling, you're not eating when you feel those. But I can guarantee the three bottom ones, that's when you're doing your eating. Anytime I was stressed or I was nervous about something, and I can give you a really good example. I remember working it was a cosmetic company. I was the account executive, and I would have to often do presentations. Now, I'm pretty comfortable with a group talking in public. I've always kind of done that. But when I start bringing in the financial piece and I'd have to talk on my financials for the month, I found that scary. And I found that if I was asked questions and I didn't know, I'd have a panic run right through me. Anyway, before these presentations with my group, my fellow colleagues, and my boss, I found that this really stressful. And so I can mark my words here. Anytime I was headed to that meeting, that I had to give out 8 files to all the people around the table, and then talk about my financials in front of all those people. And I would be up there for a good half an hour. I would be very stressed out before. And I would hit the bulk burn before I'd go, and I would get out of my car. I'd go into the bulk barn, and my favorite thing in the bulk barn was caramel balls. And so I would I put my hand inside the plastic bag, and I'd grab the caramel balls and then turn it inside out, put the tie on it, and go up to the front to pay for it. So it was like a handful of caramel balls. I thought it was pretty innocent, right? No, it wasn't. So I'd get to the counter, and this is every time before one of these meetings. Well, I got to the front and I said to the girl, "Oh, caramel." No, before I said caramel balls, I gave her the bag, and she goes, "Oh, caramel balls?" And I said, "Oh, good for you." I said, "They look like chocolate covered almonds, but you know your stuff." And she goes, "No, I know you. You're in here all the time. You get the same thing every time." And I said, "No, I don't." I have to laugh because she recognized me. She knew that I get the caramel balls. She knew that I usually pay between $130 and $150 by the time it's been weighed. And I'm eating them on my way to the car and literally stuffing my face with them. This is something that I did that I really kind of minimized in my own mind. I thought, "Oh, I'll stop at the bulk barn for a little snack." What I was doing was feeding my worry and my anxiety over this meeting. And I did it all the time. But do you think that I even knew what I was doing at the time? No, I just thought, I'm stopping at the bulk barn. I'm going to get my little treat. The bulk barn's right here. Well, listen, I did it because I knew that it's that stress I felt, it would take me out of the feeling of stress and make me feel comforted. And when I started to understand that particular day was the catalyst that made me realize, oh my gosh, this is what I do when I'm scared, when I'm stressed, when I'm anxious. This is what I do. I go to the bulk barn and I get caramel balls. I also had a bulk barn near my house. So anytime I was feeling defeated or overwhelmed or upset, I'd go to the bulk barn and I'd get caramel balls. In fact, my family started to recognize the fact that I love caramel balls. So they'd bring me some. They were helping me with my habit. And now that when that employee at the bulk barn had said, "No, I see you all the time. I know what you get." It shook me a little bit. And I started to realize, oh, I do this when I feel a certain way. And this is one of the emotions behind my weight. And yes, I was overweight. I remember before I'd go to bed at night during that time, I would think, I know, cracker sounds like a good idea. And I would either have 2 pieces of toast or half a sleeve of crackers, premium plus crackers with butter on them. And this was also the emotions behind the weight, because this would give me that comfortable feeling while I read my book, and it would make me feel looked after because I felt like I gave so much during the day. So I think that what I'm getting at is that if I felt the emotions, then that pattern, that buffering that I was doing to take myself out of feeling like that, if I took myself out of that patterning, I think that I would have started to feel those emotions that I wouldn't let myself feel. Because the thing is, when we start buffering, we always use the thing that we're trying most to get rid of. So if it's the person that is a drinker, she drinks or he drinks, the one thing they'll use is more wine or more of their favorite drink in order to feel that distraction, in order to feel like they don't want to feel that emotion. And for people who are overweight, it's food that will do it for them. And that's the very thing they don't want to do. And that is always their preference. People will scroll if that's what they don't want to do, to avoid feeling the pain or to avoid feeling the feelings they don't like to feel. I think the other piece right here is I know that a lot of my clients that come to me don't know how to process an emotion that comes up. So yes, it makes sense for us to want to go to those things that do make us feel better. But what if I told you it's really easy to process an emotion? What if I told you it's easy if you know how to do it? To feel the emotion. And guess what? The coolest thing about this is that when you feel some of the emotions that you're afraid to feel, it's almost like looking under the bed when you are afraid of a monster. It's not ever as bad as that you think it is. And some of the emotions we want to feel, right? If you lost your friend and they passed away, if you lost a loved one, you want to grieve. You want to feel sad. We don't want to change that emotion. Feel the feeling. And that's what I'm saying here. As soon as we start to feel the feelings, know our triggers, listen to what our thought is in our mind, this is when we can stop doing the overeating, over drinking, over smoking, anything that we do that tends to be a habit. We'll call it a habit. It's actually buffering. It's a distraction for things that we don't want to feel, that we don't want to experience in our life. But the only thing to really fear is fear. You've heard that saying, right? The only thing to fear is fear itself. That's what keeps us stuck. But when we start to feel the emotions, that's when we can make a change in the patterns, whether it be overweight or over drinking or anything that we're doing that we don't want to do anymore. I think when we're trying to just get a plan and lose the weight, some of the problems is that we're not dealing with the internal, it's almost like an internal struggle that we have. And I think our brain loves to remind us of some untruths that come up. And that's what we try and mask, right? That can sound like, I can never stick to a plan. I never have. Our family are big boned. We have weight issues in our family. Those are excuses, but they're also a struggle that we go through. It's a very real struggle. And some of the messages we send ourselves are like, I'm doomed. Our psyche gets all involved and has us believe the old story that we keep telling ourselves, and we keep telling people that we know and, that we know and love. And the people that have told us we're big boned, that's who we are. We all have sweet tooths in this family. We all have big rear ends. No, this is not the story we need to tell ourselves. Let's get out of the internal struggle and start to not listen to some of those untruths, right? We have predispositions for sure, and hormone flux issues like leptin and ghrelin, and, especially as we age, for sure. I'm really sensitive to certain foods. If you asked yourself what you're sensitive to, I'm sure you'd come up with a few, especially in today's society with all the prepared stuff that we eat. I remember learning about the difference between willpower and self-discipline. And, for people that are losing weight, and this is for anything, drinking, anything like this, but if you plan, if you have that sweet tooth and you want to live your life and have a couple of sweets here and there, plan for 2 days a week perhaps. And after those 2 days that you've had your piece of cake or your cupcake, that is your plan for the week. And that's using self-discipline. So let's say Monday and Tuesday, both nights you've had your treat, your cookie, your cake. And then the third night you go to somebody's house and they've baked a cake and they offer you a piece and you like it. The self-discipline can kick in and you can say, no, I've planned for 2 days. Why don't I take a piece home and put it in the freezer and have that next week on my day, because I only eat sweets 2 days a week. This is what I'm talking about when we start really becoming aware of that, what that thought is in our brain, and we're using self-discipline to guide ourselves to a healthier place, to a place where we don't go to these things based on how we feel, but instead we put a plan in place for ourselves so that, we're looking after our health and feeling the emotions rather than eating them or drinking them. So I hope I'm really clear here when I'm talking about this, because some of the internal struggles that we deal with are what we say to ourselves, number one, and some of the external ones are when we are kind of we feel sabotaged by other people. But really, if we thought about it, we have to make our plans and stick to them. And some of the things that happen are when we're out at restaurants or when, we're being offered up, things that we normally wouldn't have. Like if we belong to a company that deals with Thursdays on, Thursdays and, they send beer to everybody in 4:00 in the afternoon. I mean, if that's something you don't want to do, this is that's an external struggle. And this is something that you want to make sure that, that you plan for. Maybe that one Thursday you have a beer and your self-discipline is kicked in. You're not dealing in willpower. Willpower is when it's all resisting, when you're trying to figure out how you're going to walk away from getting that donut or having that rest of the bottle of the wine that you've opened that night. Once when I was going through this and starting to listen to what my thought was, which caused the feeling, once I started to get very familiar with that and process those emotions, and listen, it is easier to process the emotions than what you may think. I know that clients will say to me, well, how do you do that? You know what? It's just a matter of naming them. So there is a thought that will come down from your brain and it will give you a feeling. That thought will give you a feeling. What is that feeling? I want to know what that feeling is. Because when you have that feeling, whether it's anxiousness or a heaviness in the heart or a heaviness in the stomach, it has been caused by a thought. That thought is what we can change, number one. We also want to know what emotions that you're feeling that you really don't want to feel, that you're being distracted with. And that's the key, right? So we want to make sure that we know what emotion it is. So name it. Feel that vibration in your body. That's the feeling. And what emotion are you feeling? Remember, it's all been caused by a thought. Okay? And once we get that under wraps, that is processing emotion. That alone. If you can name it and feel it and you know what it is that you are feeling right now, you might sit with it a little bit. Oh, I'm feeling anxious right now. Isn't that interesting? Why am I feeling anxious? Trace it back to the thought you're thinking. You can change it if you want to. When we also use our animal instincts, our bodies are so amazing. It's like a really slick operating system. And when you can use your animal instincts to guide you when it comes to how much you're eating and when you're hungry, this will really be helpful too. So when you're feeling hungry, is your stomach gurgling? Can you hear your stomach? Are you getting a lot of saliva running down your the sides of your mouth? those are our body's way of telling us we're hungry. If none of those are happening, you're probably succumbing to emotions. Okay? So listen to your body. And when you're eating a meal, always ask yourself, am I still hungry? Instead of, am I full? Because when you stop eating your meal before you're full, you're going to start regulating the weight that your body could be, that your body would like to be. And this, again, I'm not a nutritionist. I am a coach, and I've done this myself. So this is me using my experiences to help you really use your animal instincts for when your body tells you they want something crunchy, eat some celery. So the name of the game here is to, when you have a thought, understand that that thought is driving how you feel and it is giving you that emotion. So when you have that emotion and that feeling, know that you can change that thought. That's number one. Number two, listen to your body. What does it need? When is it hungry and when is it not hungry anymore? And listen to it and tell your body, talk to your body, say, yes, I got you. We're going to eat. Yes, I got you. We're not hungry anymore. I want you to know that the hero is you. And when we get down to understanding what the food does to us, how it makes us feel, and which foods we want more of and which we need to have less of, then we are changing how we view ourselves by the decisions we have made, and the trust factor is climbing. And when the trust factor climbs, this is the work. This is when you challenge yourself. This is when you become mentally tough and your emotions won't want to do it. And this is where I like to say that it's us, that we are in charge, that we get to be in charge, and we tell our brain, I'm in charge now. Listen to me. This is what we're doing. And just like that, we are guiding and making choices for ourselves and changing exactly what we don't want. Just like we guide and make choices for our kids when they are little. It is so helpful to use the same guiding structures for us when we really truly want something, like to lose weight or to stop over drinking or to stop smoking, and we just want to feel better. And many, many clients will say that to me. I just want to feel better. What is it for you that you could do to make yourself feel better? Start with the thought. Know your emotions. Name them. Process them. Listen, take a walk through Martha Beck's Perfect Day. I just want to tell you about this because it's a really great exercise. And this is about identifying what your future self is, what you eat, what decisions you make, how you look. The weight is a slow moving measure. The magic is in the process, not at the end result. It's who you're becoming. And I know for me that some high points have been when I'm at Thanksgiving and I make decisions on what will fuel me, not what I get to have. It is not a punishment, but it's a choice, and it feels empowering. And I'm comfortable in my own body. I believe that when you have a goal, it's in you. It's in you and you can do it. And I'm not afraid of the self-doubt or the shame or any emotion that comes up. I believe me when I say I have a goal. I want you to believe yourself when you have a goal and go all in. I'm not afraid of the self-doubt, or shame or any emotion that comes up. Don't be afraid of it. Just look at it right in the eye and say, I know what I feel. This is what I feel, and I'm not afraid of it. There's always a way to deal with it. There's always going to be changes in your eating activities, tweaking that needs to be done, for sure. This is not setting you back, though. Remember this, you have not blown it. This is just like changing an event in your calendar. I really want to summarize this. The emotions behind the weight is something that enables you to take control and take charge of your life. And having a plan that shows you a straightforward path. Remember that when you step on the scale, that's only data. It's not a license to beat yourself up. It's only data. How much do you weigh? so you can track it. And when do you buffer? When do you get distracted? That's mindless eating, which means, is that in front of the TV, in the car, or when you were out at a party? Track what you eat for 3 days is a great idea. Even a hard candy, put it in that tracking. And after tracking for 3 days, eat only real food, no processed food, and track what you eat. And track your emotions as well. I call it the medical journal. I've got it on my website, jillfarron.com. So what changes have you felt? Now listen, while you're doing the hard plan, this part is the groundwork. The version of yourself in your mind, be her now. Access her. Access what she would order in a restaurant, how she would feel. Ask her questions. This is thought work. I will be doing more on this. And remember, behind overeating, over drinking, over consuming are unrealized emotions. Emotions that we don't want to face or feel. Let's bring them in. Let's deal with them. Feeling them is actually processing them. That's how you do it. I just want to take you through this Martha back exercise, and I'm going to wish you all well for next week. So this exercise for Martha back, what you're going to do is you're going to visualize in your mind your whole day, your whole perfect day, from when you wake up in the morning, exactly how you would want it, how you feel, how you look, who you're waking up next to, what you're eating, what you're drinking, the whole thing. Go through your whole day in the perfect day that you would love. And visualize this whole day from morning to night. Who's with you? What are you doing? How are you eating? What do you look? All the things. And just do that. And write down what comes up for you when you do that. Because when you start visualizing things too, you start to believe them. It's just like visualizing yourself making a mistake in that presentation, or visualizing yourself being late for something. Normally it will happen. So be mindful of that. Do that Martha Beck exercise. Write down all the things that you get from that. And remember, you have your own back. Building trust is doing what you promised yourself. Sooner or later, you realize everything comes down to your ability to stick with a plan, whatever your emotions that you may have that pop up for you. I'll talk to you next week, guys. Have a great week. And remember, name those emotions, process those emotions, and listen to your body. Are you hungry? When are you not hungry anymore? There you go. That's enough for today. Have a great one.
Hello, and thank you for taking the time to listen to the Good to Great Life Coaching Podcast with Jill Farron. If you like this podcast, please take the time to like and subscribe, and feel free to leave any comments and look below for the contact information if you would like to connect with Jill directly. Just a reminder, this podcast is for educational purposes only. This podcast is not a substitute for professional care. This podcast is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or professional advice or services. If you are looking for help in your journey, it is important that you seek out a qualified practitioner. If you would like to work with Jill for her guidance, please email her at jill@jillfarron.com to book a discovery call. That's Jill, Jill, at jillfarron.com, JILLFARREN.com. Have a wonderful day, evening, or night, depending on when you catch this.